Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and going to talk to you today. It looks like, are we getting rain? I'm seeing water coming down, but I honestly don't know if it's raining right now or if this is just the humidity. Because this is one of those days I think I've talked about probably maybe last month when we had those really hot days. Usually I was surprised because those were reasonably cool in the morning. And good morning, Sam. Good morning, Amy. Or actually, no, Adelina. That's who it is. I was like, two people there. So I have, what you call it? I was just saying it's very humid here. It's very gross. And I had a client who was up in Canada. And apparently it's very hot and gross up there too. So it's really, good morning, Alex. So today is just one of those like hot, gross, like the sky is white. You can just see the humidity laying on things. Actually, I had the air on this morning. I turned it off because you'd never be able to hear me if I had it on. So, So anyway, welcome. Good morning. And, some interesting things I was going to chat about today. First off, I had some very odd dreams last night. Actually, for the last couple of nights, I've had some very odd dreams, or the last 2 or 3 nights. Now, of course, obviously, everybody knows I'm talking to death about Rouhani. Maybe some people are like, can you talk about something other than Rouhani? But I talk about it a lot because it's just, like I said, every day, every new client I have, it just tends to amaze me what it does. And one of the things as an energy worker that always surprises you is when somebody... when you see certain things in your mind while you're working on somebody, you see certain things, maybe, like I said, with Rouhani, you tend to see certain figures or masters or angels that will come up and you're just kind of like, okay, well, this person's coming in, that person's coming in, and oh, I see a color here, or I feel this there. And, you wonder, again, there's always that thing that goes on where you're like, okay, is this a thing? When you see certain colors, for example, you're wondering like, okay, is this just because the way the light looks when I have my eyes closed? I don't know. Yeah, you always kind of go through these things in your mind. And then you talk to the client and literally everything that you hit on is exactly what is happening to the client. They're like, oh, I felt this and I felt this. And the thing is, you're not talking through the session and I'm not even looking at them through the session. So it's just always interesting to me how that works and how the kinds of effects that it has on people. But I had some dreams about Rouhani. I had one dream about like the Rouhani angels, which was weird. It was like they were all kind of congregated like at this crossroad. But they were kind of looking, it's hard to describe. Like initially you might have thought like they were like fairies or something, just the way that they presented. And the way I see angels is funny. I mean, sometimes I see them in like a semi-human form, the way a lot of us do. You see them as like the semi-human form with wings. But sometimes I just see them as sort of like this collection of wings with like golden eye look like, or more than one, just kind of staring out from the middle of it, which is a bit more biblical, I guess. Not necessarily the golden part, but that's usually how they present to me. So it's interesting. But this was more of the latter kind that I was seeing. And last night I had a really strange dream about being in a room. And again, I don't have, this is the way dreams are. Like you have the impression you're in a certain type of room, but there's nothing in the dream to show that. So for example, I was thinking I was somewhat in a laundrette or something. But I don't remember seeing like washers, dryers, anything like that. But somehow that was what was in my mind. And of course that could just be, when you think about laundering, you think about clearing something or cleaning it or getting, doing something like that. And I kept having the impression that I was doing Rouhani for a girl, and I couldn't remember. First I thought, well, maybe she's Spanish. I wasn't sure, but there was something like, I had that kind of with a question mark in my mind. But then it was like, I just kept having this feeling, because people know who I work with, Azrael, that I needed to do Rouhani, and I needed to take, because I have an Azrael sigil. I'm not wearing it now, but I usually wear one right here. And it says, put that back here. Put that back here and then do your Rouhani. And I was like, okay, is that like even a thing? Like, are you even allowed to do that? I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that I actually want to talk to Neshla Avi about, because I'm not sure. I mean, I'm only doing this on myself, okay? I'm not doing it on a client. but just to kind of get her perspective on that, because I don't know whether that, but this morning I was gonna say, I was gonna wait to do that, and then when I was doing my morning Rouhani, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And what I found when I did it was that the person in that dream, okay, I've kind of to back up a little bit, probably several months ago, and this was actually when all the Azrael stuff started opening up for me, was I had done what they call a soul retrieval, which is actually kind of a shamanic thing. But I had kind of gotten method to do it myself. I wasn't going through a particular person. I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was kind of saying to me, "Oh, you've got these aspects." Because again, when we talk about soul retrieval, we're kind of looking at the soul in almost a quantum way. We're saying that it like I said, not the past lives thing per se, but that we exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. So there's other and it's not necessarily me as Brigid Burke. It's not me, but it's me. It's my soul, but it's my soul as different people. Okay, like those are your different lifetimes or whatever you want to call it. So there was we figured out there were actually 13 particular lifetimes that were unsettled, traumatic, may have resulted in a let's just say a very bad end, sometimes self-imposed in some of these lifetimes, and that these these were kind of creating because they're sort of affecting my mind and where I'm at now. And it was like, when certain issues would come up now, it would like reverberate with whatever maybe happened with that particular manifestation of my soul at that time. And I had done a whole lot of work that really did, it was hard to describe how I felt when I finally like went through and integrated like the 13th piece. It was a really quite a thing to get when you take your fragments and kind of pull them back together. But there seemed to still be those two fragments, as I indicated, the ones that were self-harming, shall we say, that were that popped up during this Rouhani session. And one of them was a Native American girl. That was why I was seeing her like with the darker hair and the darker skin. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's who this is." And then it was almost like, no, you had the sigil and you brought Azrael in because this is something like Rouhani is certainly about opening the heart. It's about healing. It's about, and it does all of that. And the archangels, I was talking with another friend about this. She goes, as somebody who she has kind of done work with them over the years, she's like, they have a tremendous power that people should not underestimate, whether they believe in, whether they're Christian or not, or practice Judaism or not, or, whether they belong to a system that believes in angels, so to speak. She says, you can't really underestimate the power of them. They're very, very strong and powerful, which is why Rouhani can be so intense. And the other energies that you're working with are also powerful and intense. But this particular thing, I think, had to do with a soul, like a transition type thing. And when I mean a transition, I mean like a soul transition, like somebody who's still not getting over something that's connected to a particular death. Like it's almost like still reliving that and not like breaking out of it. So it was almost like you needed to do that because Azrael's not part of Rouhani, but it's like bring him in because there's something that he does that the other angels are like, yeah, that's really his thing. So that was really interesting that happened because that was, it ended up being like an hour-long session for me this morning. It was like, ooh, just very, very strange. So the idea of using Rouhani in that way, combining it with my own work and soul retrieval, I don't know yet whether or not that's something I'm going to do for other people or need to do. Again, it's something I definitely want to talk to Neshla Avi about first. I don't want to, she's way more, obviously she's the founder-elect of Rouhani. I don't want to, I don't want to start playing around with something that I'm still reasonably new with energetically. Even though I feel like I've been doing it for eons, but I do want to check in with her before I would add anything like that in, because I just think that would be, that would be the circumspect thing to do. But it was very interesting, the kind of effect that it had on me. And I was like, oh, okay, because when you have a situation like that, oftentimes there is a sense of betrayal or a sense of loss or a sense of isolation or a sense of anger that might be held in the body. And if it's being held in, it's not, so it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what's going on in this lifetime or this, iteration of me. even though I'm sure I have plenty of things, it's interesting, yeah. Even though there's certain things from my past that I'm sure I could point to as things that I could be angry about or feel betrayed about, or, but, at this point, it's just like, yeah, it's not, I don't feel like it was about that. I feel like it was about something that ended up being much more serious for the person, where the person took much more drastic steps. I mean, because I've never had any kind of ideations in that way, but this was just very, very interesting. So, yeah, it's kind of like, so it's going to be interesting to see how that dovetails with the other work that I do with the archangels connected to transition, because it's a pretty potent thing. So the other thing that I had wanted to mention today, so that was just kind of sharing that that interesting thing. And practical note on Rouhani: people who are buying Rouhani packages. I had a client who was having a difficulty booking, like she couldn't book at all. And basically when people go to my website, there's a place that says log in. And when you go and you put your whatever login, like people who buy packages and stuff, they're the ones who will be able to join as members. So you take the login that you created, and there you can manage your subscriptions. That was something that was not clear, and the email that people get from Wix doesn't make that clear. So I actually asked the Wix support person to make me a little video, and I'm actually going to put that video. I'm actually going to put it on my webpage, on my blog, so that people can watch it and learn how they need to actually log into when they've paid for 3, to be able to just schedule them whenever they want to, because she couldn't figure it out, and honestly I wouldn't have known. And they don't provide any direction. There's a lot of things I like about Wix, and then there's a lot of things that I'm just like, really, like, why can you not be clear about this? So anyway, just to let people know who have either booked packages or want to, that's the way that they work, is you have to actually go and log in, and then there's like a member subscription area, and then you go in and you choose your booking date, and then it will say, do you want to pay for it, or do you want to use one of your subscriptions? So that's how that works. Anyway, the other thing I was going to talk about was something that comes up a lot when we talk about mental energy, and mental energy that runs very, very fast all the time. And that is the idea of should or shouldisms. Now, when we talk about that, a lot of times when we're in a situation where we have to solve something, okay? If yesterday I was talking about things that occur that are out of our control, and today just thinking a little bit about situations where, let's just say, for example, maybe you spent a lot of money on something and then later said, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, maybe I couldn't afford to do this or that, or, this thing happened, and then, so then what ends up, the first thing I think that the mind ends up doing, if we do something where we find ourselves in a situation where it's like, oh, this is not where I needed to be. You can do it with relationships too. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said this to this person. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have left this job and taken this one. Maybe I shouldn't. So the first thing that we do when we're in a situation where we feel like we're not where we want to be is you immediately sort of turn around and you get into this kind of personal, it's guilt mode, really. Oh, I should not have done that. And so therefore, by corollary, what a terrible person or stupid person I am for having done that, right? I mean, no, nobody here is stupid or dumb or anything, but I mean, that's what we say to ourselves, like, oh, I can't believe I did that. Or, oh, if I had known, I wouldn't have done this, right? So when you're in should mode, or you're in a situation where you don't know the way forward, I think this is a little bit even another piece of this, is that when you can't see your way forward in something, that we tend to immediately, there's this sense that we've just got to keep moving. I've got to do something. So that's where we kind of start flailing around going, okay, I'm going to do this thing over here. It's like we throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, right? I have to do something. Because if I just sit here and wait to see what's going on, then I'm not doing the right thing. I'm just, I have to take action. There's a situation that has to be solved and I need to take action. But then we can lead ourselves into more situations, either where we're just further blocked or we're just not we're putting out a lot of, we're expending a lot of energy and not getting anywhere, right? So me right now. Yeah, but you know what? It's interesting because that's just and I think I was thinking about it because I was looking at kind of emotional body mapping and kind of a lot of what goes on the side of the body particularly. And there's a lot of that goes on, especially people who tend to have pain like in this area, like in the hip, particularly the left hip, that area, or just like right. I know there's a muscle that kind of wraps around here, but it's kind of like right here. And that's an area where that's like the self-sabotage area. That's the one where we keep continually telling ourselves that we're doing it wrong. Or that, we're frustrated because we can't figure out what the right thing is. So our mind starts running at 100 miles an hour and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do this over here. And I'm going to go do this over here. Now, again, it's not that we might not have a problem that we do need to solve. And it might not be that there isn't an immediacy there. But there's a whole lot of guilt around what I should be doing. So if somebody like me comes in, it doesn't have to be me, or even if you read for yourself, if I tell you, or if somebody else says to you, maybe the only thing you need to do right now is just wait for more information. And you might say, well, I can't wait for more information. I have to do something now. But then again, the thing that you're supposed to do now either, isn't coming to fruition. So, or, for example, if you say, well, and I'm not saying this is anything about me, it's just an example. I don't have enough money, I need to immediately go out and get some other work. So you go and you start applying to things, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hear back about those things right away, and you might need the money right now, So there's things like that may go on. Or we get out of a job that has been sucking the life out of us, and then, maybe if we do have a period of a break, we don't want to take it. We're like, no, I should be doing something else. I should. Because if I'm not, then I'm somehow a terrible person and not a productive member of society. And, it becomes something that's out of shadow. It becomes a source of shame. Like, me, I'm not doing the thing that I should be doing. And so we rush in to do anything just to show people that we're doing something. Right? And to be totally fair, there are people in the environment who will say that. If you find that you're in that kind of position, people will be like, oh, like you've probably heard this before. Well, you just need to go out and do anything. You just got to go out and do anything. You just got to make it work. You got to go out and do anything. And again, I don't know. There's times when maybe just, for example, with people who are artists or actors or things like that, people who work in creative professions. Sometimes when they are, when money is low or work's not coming in, or, if they're actor, they're not getting the roles that they need. If there's if you're a musician and you're not getting the gigs, if you're an artist and, maybe whatever revenue you might have from something is dried up. A lot of times what people do is they'll run out and like get a waitressing job, or they'll run out and they'll do, they'll work in Starbucks, they'll go out and they'll just do something to kind of fill in until the next role or whatever it is comes in. And, and that's actually a way of life for some people. They just say, okay, well, we're just going to grab whatever the next thing is, and we're just going to do that for a while. Now, if you are in a business for yourself, if you are in something that you are trying to build, then doing that is a little more sketchy for people, because if you go, because then it's almost like, okay, well, where are you devoting your energy? Are you devoting your energy to the thing that you're trying to do? Or are you devoting your energy to just bringing income in? Obviously, we have to have an income. We have to be able to pay our bills, right? But what are we spending our energy on? And the question is, do we just need to refocus our efforts for what we're doing to bring business in? And some people may evaluate and say, okay, well, maybe I don't want to be in business. Maybe I would rather have a job. Some people do. There's no judgment on that, because it's a tough thing especially when you're trying to run things by yourself. But when person feels authentically, because we'll talk a lot about how people feel authentically about things. So let's just following that example, if somebody does something, let's just say they do something for their business and they really, really love what they do, but they're just not making the money. And, but the type of thing that they have, it's not like I can say, okay, I need to go get a job, even a part-time job with regular hours, because maybe some of the things they do for their business, that it interferes with that. You can't be like, okay, I need to be in a job where they demand that I show up from 6:30 to 11 every day or something. I don't know, just making a number up. And not everybody has the energy to say, well, I'm going to work all day and then do my business all night. When you're younger, you might be able to get away with that. I know certainly at my age, I was like, yeah, there's no way. That could be a thing. And again, this is not particularly about me, but I've also heard other people talking. This conversation's come up in a number of different sectors recently. And yeah, obviously, when you're doing something like that, you have to put the work in. But if it's something that really, to use the expression of the light language cards, makes your heart sing, if it's the kind of thing that makes you feel that way, then the prospect of going back and just getting a regular job, doing a regular thing, just for some reason might make you feel like, it makes you feel like your heart sinks. Like, you're kind of like, okay, the part of the reason that we get out of situations like that is because we're like, okay, I don't want my soul to be sucked out of me. I don't want to be doing a job that it's like, oh God, here I have to get up today, and I hate the fact that I do this. I hate the fact that I'm going to work. I hate this. I hate that. Like that's not where you want to be, right? So then there becomes this place of where's the Venn diagram here of like the kind of, okay, this is the income I have to meet. These are what my options are. This is where I actually want to be doing. Like, where do these intersect, right? Where do we find that sweet spot? And the thing is, if you are, and sometimes too, like you will find if there's a situation where you are continually trying to do something like that, but it's not right for you, then you find it's not working out. And then you get frustrated because you're just like, well, I'm trying to do the right thing. And really then the message kind of becomes, okay, well, maybe the right thing is something else. Maybe you need to take another approach to your business, or maybe you need to take what you're doing to a different venue or platform. One possibility there is just, if you're doing something alone, okay, well, what kind of work you're doing? Can you partner with somebody? Is there a platform where you can do something where that you could, if you have the credentials that you can join and say, okay, I'm going to be offering my services through this platform. Can you use something like Upwork or something like that to do the work that you're doing? It's a question of trying to find like what those different ways are that we can do things and that we can manage things. But I think what happens is initially we can get overwhelmed by that sense of other people are going to look at me and shake their finger and say, oh, you shouldn't have done it this way. The family members who will say like, oh, you shouldn't have given up that good job to do this thing that you think you want to do. Because we always have this attitude that, oh, well, doing that is delusional somehow. Like you can't follow your dreams. You've just got to get a sensible job. We hear that kind of rhetoric, and that kind of rhetoric, that's part of that sabotaging energy that can come in and make us feel like we're doing it wrong. And then if we try to talk to certain people around us, people probably who care about us and who worry, then it's like, well, they worry about the fact that maybe you're doing it wrong. And what you really don't need is that kind of energy around, it's just, people mean well when they do it. And there is kind of a reality there. It makes me think of the fact that Saturn has been in Pisces, okay? Saturn and Neptune have kind of been in the same space right now. Now, Neptune, of course, as we know, is about imagination, about dreaming big, about saying, yeah, if I can dream it, I can do it. But Neptune is also very nebulous. It's not really clear about how that happens. It's just like, oh yeah, there's this idea, and maybe you could do something with it. Saturn's more about manifesting, right? So it's more about taking that energy and pulling it down to earth and saying, okay, here's the practical steps that I need to take. When again, I'm thinking about the Rahani class I took when we talk about balancing masculine and feminine hemispheres in the brain and in the body. What comes up there is getting the three minds and the four bodies, as they call it, kind of all in line with each other. Because when the minds are, because like I said, you have different minds. You have your conscious mind and what you're intending, and then you have your memories that are saying, oh, but like this happened to this, or this happened to me, or this happened to this person, or this happened to this, and then those come in and interfere with what you're trying to do here, and then there may be this, I don't know what you want to call it, your superconscious mind, your higher self, your collective unconscious, something where you might be getting the message about, this is who you are and where you need to be right now. And those three get out of sync because you're trying to hear what your what that super collective consciousness is trying to tell you about what direction, what direction the ocean's going, what the tide is, right? Like, which way are you going? And you've got this other mind in between that's going, oh yeah, but when this person did this happened to them. When this person, and it just, or you're looking at it and you're just looking at the immediacy of something, and it's like the Four of Cups energy. You're staring, you're kind of staring like this at the three things, that these things here that are not satisfactory, and you're not seeing the cup that's over here. So sometimes when we do that, when we over focus on what's lacking, we don't see where the opportunity is. So yeah, it's about trying to keep those things in sync. And so you might have the idea, the very Neptunian idea, that's what they would call the right brain thing. That's the creative thing, right? And again, the fact that maybe literally left, somebody was saying recently, like, oh, literally that left and right brain thing isn't a thing. I'm like, well, you know what? Energetically speaking, it's a thing. So your kind of left brain energy is more the logical. It's just kind of like, okay, well, what do I need to do? How much capital do I need to do this? Where do I need to get my materials? Where do I need to, if you're having trouble, like if you're marketing yourself and you're having trouble with things, then it's kind of like, okay, well, let's look at some more marketing strategies. What might be a different way to go about it? A lot of us are very heavily reliant on social media and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, so you do certain things. But then it's like, okay, but there's also, what other options do you have? I mean, what other platforms might you be able to get your work out there on? Or what people do you know who might be able to spread the word about something that you're doing? So, there's all of this kind of stuff that goes on. And so you've got to look at all the materials that you have and just see, how you might be able to do something. So I think there's a lot of the tension between that for a lot of people, that Neptunian energy and that Saturn energy. And it's in Pisces, which is the most wet and watery of the signs, because it's just kind of like, because equally there seems to be the margin of you can have your dreams or you're just going to drown. You kind of feel like, rhetorically speaking. There's always that feeling with Pisces that you're not really quite sure, with the flow of it, you're never quite sure where it's going to go. It doesn't have the solidity of, that sort of Saturn Capricornian energy that says, well, we're just going to chip away at this and have persistence and hard work and do this. So the question then becomes, how do you merge those energies? How do you keep water and earth from becoming mud? Because sometimes when you feel very strongly about something, but then there's this practical pull, all you do is you get stuck. You kind of get stuck in that middle place, and you don't manage to move. So so trying to find those balances and things, but we do get stuck a lot in should-isms. So that's that kind of middle mind that comes in, that and those aspects of you that are self-critical and self-sabotaging. Now, those self-critical things, I mean, sometimes I think what they're really, I'm going to use the word designed for, and I don't know that that's really the best word, because I don't know that they are, I'm not one of those, like, evolutionary psych people that says, oh, every psychological thing serves some kind of a function. I mean, some of them I'm sure serve some functions, but I don't, it goes to a length that I just don't really agree with. But if you're in a space where you have an idea and a dream and you can't quite figure out how to manifest it, the first thing we do is, first of all, the logical mind comes in, but then the litany, that little causal litany of, oh, well, so-and-so did it this way and it didn't work, so therefore I'm going to do it and it's not going to work. And that's honestly that isn't necessarily so. Just because it didn't work for one person, you also don't know what the other circumstances were. Was it just a bad time? If it was something they were promoting, were they promoting it to the wrong audience? Was it, or is it just like maybe it's a job somebody else would hate but you would love? I mean, there's all kinds of things. There could be, if you're talking about people and personalities, oh, I worked with that person and they were not good. But then it's like, I don't know, maybe that person, for whatever reason, just didn't mesh with that person. Maybe you will. So you don't always want to exclude possibilities. And a lot of times there's a need to watch out for the voice of should, because that's part of, like I was talking about yes but energy yesterday. should energy is very, very similar. This is what you should do, because it's coming from that same judgmental space that says there's a right way to do this and you're not doing it. That you're in this position because you didn't do it the right way. Okay, that's what the voice is saying. Now, does that mean that you were doing it wrong? No, it doesn't at all. And even if you were not doing it right, I mean, you learn stuff from not doing it right too. We all have things like that. Nothing. I think it was Joseph Campbell who said, if every single thing in our life goes exactly in order, exactly according to plan, and we always land that job, and we always get this, and we always do that, and this always goes our way. He said, well, then you're probably living somebody else's life. It's probably not your life. It's probably someone else has come in and is, it could be family. It could be, a lot of times it is family for people, especially in certain positions. They've arranged it for you. It's all been prearranged. Most of us are flying by the seat of our pants. And honestly, if you're thinking about life in that grander scheme as a game, then yeah, that's more interesting than saying like, okay, I'm playing chess. I've already got my 10 moves already pre-programmed. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, game done. Like, how interesting would that game be? I mean, it wouldn't even really be a game per se. It would just be a set of going through the motions, right? The idea is that it's like there's a puzzle to solve along the way. Okay, so I'm in this situation. Both my intuition and my logic are telling me not to do this, this, and this. Okay, so then what are you telling me to do? What are my other options? And again, how do we pay attention and find the information that tells us what those options might be? So anyway, just things to think about. Just like you want to watch out for, but I can't. You also want to watch out for, oh, I should. Because should can also imply it's not something you really want to do, but, if I was a good person, I should do this. Maybe it's got the call of duty to it, and there's some things that perhaps we consider to be our duty, our civic duty, or our duty to our family, or but you have to you always have to examine things that are matters of duty. Is it really your duty to do something? Or is it just another script that you have where you're telling yourself that, I should be doing this. And it's funny that the card that just came up was the one that was in my head. Okay. So let's talk about should for a minute. And I did my card reading. Okay, so our first card is the Strength card. It's the Courage card. I think I was talking about Leo energy the other day, because this is obviously Leo energy. This is the 8. This is the energy that will be coming up later this month. Because obviously around July 20th or so, 21st, that's when we move into Leo mode. But so here we go. Same idea, right? You've got the rocks here. This is not fertile soil, right? But the flower manages to grow anyway. Okay? Yeah, you've got, you're on rocky ground, but you've still figured out how to do it in spite of the fact that everyone says, oh no, you don't have enough resources to do this. But yeah, you managed to do it. Right? You manage to grow and to flourish. And that's the Courage card, right? Our inner feeling, yeah, fool. Am I being dumb? Am I taking a risk? Am I doing something that's foolish? People looking at me going, ugh, how could you do that? I can't start anything unless I have $1 million in the bank. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I'm like, very few people are in that position. Very small percentage of people are in that position. I mean, some people are fortunate in that way. But it's like, in inner feeling of which you're unaware. You're ready to take a risk. You're ready to do something that other people regard as quote-unquote foolish, right? But you have to remember the fool also has to do about making a beginning. Saying, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just move in and see how this goes. You make it into an adventure rather than this daunting mountain that you have to climb. Like, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to make it over that. It's this sense of like, oh, now we're on an adventure. Now we're going to find the path. We're on an adventure, right? And the external feeling of which we are aware. This is the card I was kind of laughing at. Was this one? Exactly what I just said. Turning in, right? Person in the middle and all of these other voices, all these should voices, right? All these voices around you telling you what you should be doing and why you're not doing it right. you know? So a matter of turning in. And this is actually the external feeling of which we are aware. And so this is saying, yeah, you just need to be aware of the fact that people are gonna make you feel like, people are always gonna be yelling at you that somehow people are very judgy, okay? You're not doing it right. Well, if you were gonna do it right, you would do it this way. And it's like, well, I need to listen to my own inner voice. My own inner voice will steer me in the right direction in spite of externals, right? We ask for inspiration. We say, okay, well, what's the clever way to play the game here, right? And speaking of play, this is the playfulness card. This is the one that's coming up as your advice. Time to play. Everything does not need to be a drudge. Not everything does not have to be like doom and gloom. Even if we're in a situation that seems challenging for us, maybe, like I said, it could be challenging financially, it could be challenging in terms of a relationship conflict, it could be challenging in terms of a job you have that you don't like, it could, you could be challenging in terms of a family situation. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities for what might be challenging here, but ultimately, especially as it regards our work, we have to have an attitude of play. And that's the thing that seems to be reiterated over and over again. I forget who I was talking to the other day. There was a couple different people. Yeah, okay. I was having actually two completely separate conversations in two completely separate contexts. One was with a guy in his 40s, and the other was with a young woman who was probably 19. And both of them were talking about these ideas of productivity. And well, in order to get, if I'm on vacation in summer, I can't be sitting around. I have to do something. I have to be working hard. Or saying, well, and the other person was saying, well, if I sit here and I decide to take some time for myself, I'm realizing that somebody else could be getting ahead of me in my business, so now I have to jump in and do something. And I'm like, why do you live like that? You're on edge all the time. It's always it's that 9 of Wands energy. You're like, oh my God, what's coming from this corner? It's like back to the Zen story that I've told about when you start Zen training and you have somebody who's in the house working with the master, doing chores and stuff, and then the master comes jumping out of nowhere and starts beating him with a stick. And the person after a while is walking around like this, just waiting for the master to come out, because they know inevitably he knows that they will. And no matter what he does to try to be prepared, the master manages to sneak up behind and get him, And finally the person gives up and says, you know what, he's going to come out and beat me, whatever. And then at that moment, the person's able to begin. Actually, this is fencing training, I think Alan Watts was saying. It's fencing training. And it's like, okay, now you're ready to begin. Because the one thing you cannot do is always be anticipating. The way to be a successful fencer, the way to successfully play that game is to not always be, on edge. Okay? And our outcome card is the Lovers, which is interesting. Okay? So the Lovers, again, there's two possibilities when this comes up. In this particular deck, this is about operating from a space of love and not operating from spaces of other things, other kinds of types of relationship that we engage in, maybe relationships that are more about networking, or things maybe that are more opportunistic, where we just say, oh, well, this would be a good alliance for me to have. Not things like that. Operating, whatever it is you're doing, operating from a genuine space of love. And the Lovers also would imply connection. Connecting with others and not isolating yourself. Okay? This is not about isolating yourself. This is about getting out and playing the game, not hiding and saying, I can't, I'm doing it wrong, I'm terrible, I can't do it. I mean, we do that because we get drained of energy and then we just want to get away from everybody, especially if you're an introvert. And it might surprise people. It might surprise people to know that I'm actually an introvert. So I identify with that very heavily. I have my moments where I'm like, okay, I'm exhausted and I just can't talk to anybody. I need to stick my head under the covers. But that's fine from time to time. But ultimately, this is saying no. This is about connection. And I think the direction we're all being pushed in is have the courage to connect. For some people, this could have to do with love in a different sense. But the Lovers really traditionally also has to do with making choices. Okay, and basically it's saying you want to choose love. You want to choose that which is, or that which is, whether it may have to do with people, but it also may have to do with what makes you feel alive, what makes you feel makes you feel that love of being alive, that love of being here. So it's interesting. Interesting that this comes up. 3 major arcana in that one too. So I feel like, yeah, there is something that is a little more collective and not just, let's just say that's not just a message for an individual. Definitely feels that. I'm just going to pull a few. I feel like I looked at Cartouche today and I said, yeah, I'm going to pull a few of these too. And let's just see what they say before we leave. I've been turning these. These are supposed to be a half an hour. I've turned them into 45 minutes. So, yeah, and weird. This came up again too, right? So yeah, what's the first thing we're looking at? What do we love? What makes us feel alive? It's literally what this card's about. Okay, the things that I think the designer of the Cartouche deck has sometimes equated this with romantic love, but I think, and it could have to do with that in certain contexts. But see, we have it with the Earth card. So the Earth card has to do with what's practical and what's stable. So this is the heart versus the head right here. You know, this is the situation that we're in. This is the practical, sensible, grounded side. This is the I love this and I want to do what I love side. You know, this is what I feel drawn to do. And yeah, there's a sense here of something being blocked with Seth here. That there's anxiety. Oh, am I going to be able to? I'm going to be able to balance these two things. Am I going to be able to do what I love? You know, they always say, do what you love, the money will follow. Like, is it going to be a situation like that? Because perhaps for some people it doesn't feel that way, or there's just an anxiety about how to move forward with something, okay? And the twins, okay, so the twins is interesting because in this particular deck, this would imply working with others, okay? There's somebody else maybe who has the solution for you, or there's somebody else who you can work with, who is going to help you overcome this block that's here. And also Seth in that position would tend to indicate that this for some people is a source of anxiety. Whatever it is for you that's a source of anxiety about your path and where you're going, whether it has to do with a person or whether it has to do with a thing that you do that you love. Okay, this is talking about reaching out and working with others. And we have Urias as the outcome. So Urias Urias is interesting because it says a couple of things. First it says, yeah, you know, if you're feeling like something is catastrophic, this is saying things are not as bad as you think they are. Urias is like, you know, you need to take a different perspective, or this can indicate that you need to have that that uncertainty principle of the universe is going to come in. Something's going to come in, and it's going to be like, oh, wait, now that thing happened. You know, this has to do with those opportunities that come in that we didn't see coming, but they're opportunities. They're not pitfalls. Urias, the fact it's a serpent, yes, but remember, Western culture is the only one that has a problem with the serpent. Remember, this is the sign of this is what you would see on the pharaoh's crown in Egypt. This is a symbol of royalty. But when Urias comes up, it has to do with being clever, actually, too. It has to do with if you feel like there's an adversity, where the adversary could be you. You could be your own adversary. And this is saying, you know, you'll outwit that adversary. You know, you'll manage to figure out what the way forward is. But Urias always indicates that whatever we may be stressing about right now, it's not going to turn out the way we expect. It's going to turn out better than what we expect. And there's going to be somebody else involved here. There's definitely this idea of partnership, of connecting, and that making that connection is where we're going to find our answers. So, so if we've been doing something where we've been trying to go it alone, the message here is, you know, don't go it alone. Okay, and maybe for some people watching, maybe they know exactly who the person is, or maybe you don't. Maybe that's the surprise. So, yeah, interesting reading this morning. So, anyway, I hope this was interesting for people. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate people joining me, and you know, to see some of you and to see some kind of oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much. And yeah, good to see some faces and a couple blasts from the past and so forth. I was just like, oh, it's so cool to see some of you here that I haven't seen in a long time. Yeah, and of course to see those of you who are, you know, who I tend to see probably most mornings. It's really good to see all of you too. And anybody who's watching this afterwards, you know, I hope you this is enlightening, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I've got a few things going. I have an editorial project I'm determined to finish today, so I'm going to start working on that almost immediately. I have an appointment later today, but I'm going to try to get all that stuff done. And all of you have a great, Friday? Yep, it is Friday. Maybe if you're in the US, maybe some of you were off. Maybe some of you have the 4th of July holiday. Oh, and if you're in Britain, congratulations on your election results. I get the impression that this is what most people wanted, so, congrats on that. And, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a great one.